My name is Randy Howell, and you're listening to the Faith and Fishing Podcast.
Welcome to the Faith and Fishing Podcast, where every episode I'll bring you an interview with a member of the fishing community, and they'll be sharing their faith stories and fishing memories with you. I'm your host, Cam Steele. Hey y'all, welcome back to the Faith and Fishing Podcast. I'm Cam.
Hey, and I'm Robert.
And we've got an awesome episode for y'all this week. But first, just a real short housekeeping thing. If you were watching or listening and I suddenly disappear, I am on daddy duty tonight. My wife is getting a much needed break. The network crashed at work, so I've been pulling. She's been doing double duty with Henry for the past few nights. So just to let you know, if I disappear and Robert takes over, that's what's going on. But Robert, how's it going, man?
Man, it's going pretty good. It's been a pretty solid week. A lot of kids sports this week. Not a lot of fishing, but that's how it goes when the kids sports gets cranked up. It kind of cuts into the fishing time. But I'd much rather be watching them play ball than fishing. But you know, that's kind of goes in spurts. So hopefully, maybe this weekend, maybe Sunday, I'll be able to get out. We'll see.
I hear you. Yeah, I was able to do a little bit of fishing Sunday evening, and caught a couple bass and caught a nice sized crappie. And the crappie, it tore its gills up on the treble hooks, and it wasn't going to make it. And I didn't bring a cooler or a stringer with me, and I didn't have a way to get it home. And I looked up, and there was an osprey sitting in a tree. So I kind of threw it over to it, and it was floating on the water. The osprey came down and grabbed it, so that was pretty cool.
Yeah,
It didn't go to waste, and
that's right.
I got to feed a bird of prey, which is something I'd never done before. That's pretty awesome.
That is cool.
Yeah, man. So if you don't have any more housekeeping stuff, I don't think I do either. So let's get our guest introduced, and we'll do that right after this. Atollas, based out of Charleston, South Carolina, is an eyewear accessory and gear company focused on enhancing your time on the water. Their floating sunglass retainers are the most technically advanced around. Over 5 years of engineering, testing, and exhaustive feedback from paddlers, anglers, and watermen have resulted in a patented design in a class of its own. They're incredibly light and comfortable, built for durability, sport a sleek, minimal design, float virtually all brands and models of sunglasses, and they're backed for life. So if you break them, Atollas will replace them. No questions asked. Whether you're fishing, kayaking, or boating, Atollas will save your shades from the dream. Head on over to atollas.co to check out their gear and use promo code faithnfish15, that's faith the letter N, fish the number 1, 5, at checkout to save 15% on your order. Get Outdoors Pedal and Paddle in Greensboro, North Carolina offers a wide range of products and services designed to help protect the environment and enhance the time people spend enjoying the outdoors. With an expansive year-round inventory of kayaks, SUPs, bikes, kayak fishing accessories, paddling clothing, biking accessories, and more, Get Outdoors has established itself as one of the top paddle sports and biking shops in the Southeast. They also offer a wide range of kayak safety and technique courses to get you comfortable in your new boat. They'll even get it rigged up for you. Stop by the shop in Greensboro, North Carolina, or check them out at shopgetoutdoors.com. All right, so this week we've got someone on the show that I was introduced to through the Paddle and Fin Network. If you listen to the show regularly, you know that Robert and I are podcast junkies, and there is seldom a time that Paddle and Fin puts out an episode that one of us has not listened to. And Matt was on a few of them before he became one of the hosts. So y'all remember whenever we had Brad Hicks on, and he let out the really random and awkward turkey call. But that was an awesome episode. Go back and listen to it if you hadn't listened to it. But this time we've got Matt Sowders in from Matt Sowders Fishing and the Final Cast. Brother, welcome to the show.
What's going on, fellas? How you doing?
Good, good.
Well, so yeah, man, go ahead, introduce yourself to our listeners and tell us who Matt Sowders is.
So Matt Sowders is a loser. No, I'm just joking. So my name is Matt Sowders. I go by Matt Sowders Fishing on Instagram, Facebook, all the social media things that I don't post to enough. I'm a co-host with Brad Hicks on the Final Cast on the Paddle and Fin Network. I'm a Marine Corps vet, just living life day at a time, trying to catch as many fish and hunt as many animals as I can.
That's awesome, man. So I wanted to kind of go through the process of you going from a semi-regular guest on the Paddle and Fin Network to being one of the hosts. So what did that process look like?
So it like jumped out of nowhere. It was surprising. So I was on Armando's show. When was that? For people out there who don't know, Armando is on the Paddle and Fin Network for the Bass Kayak Beer Show. Great show. Give it a listen. When was I on that show? I couldn't tell you. It's been at least a year and a half. That was the first time. I think it was 2020. So maybe 2 years. I don't know. That was the first show I was on. He asked me to come on to talk about, how does kayak fishing, how did that help me transition out of the Marine Corps and deal with some of the stuff that I'm dealing with. And then Brad Hicks, my co-host on the Final Cast, I've been friends with him since I was like 2. So we've grown up together. He got into fishing. I remember I took him bank fishing one time to Caesars Creek. It's a lake over here by us. And we didn't catch anything. We basically went night fishing when I don't think we're allowed to night fish where we were at Caesars Creek. But I mean, DNR didn't come get us, so it's okay. And it was me, him, and another buddy. And then he kind of got hooked after I went to the Marine Corps. And he was running the Final Cast show. I was listening to it, and I texted him. I was like, dude, you should do a show on – it was a product. I can't remember what it was. And he was like, well, my co-host can't be on this week. Do you want to jump on? Like, be as like a co-host / guest? I was like, yeah. So I jumped on. We talked about a couple things, and then – I wasn't on the show, and then I was a guest for we were talking about like Shimano products, things like that, because as everyone knows, like my nickname in the Paddle and Fin group is the JDM Lord, because anything and everything JDM, like I have every rod that you see, all these back here, the ones that don't get you, they still have Shimanos on them. I've got an SLX sitting on the desk, another SLX sitting on the desk, a Corrado DC sitting on the desk. They're just everywhere. So we were talking about JDM stuff, and then he messaged me, I think the next day, and he was like, hey, are we going fishing tonight? Because we go fishing once a week on the river and meet up after work. And I was like, well, duh, it's Thursday, man. I'm not going to go home and not fish. So we met up, and he's like, so the co-host for the Final Cast, he was wanting to step away, deal with some family stuff, which was great, focus on himself. He was kind of getting burnt out, which I completely can understand. And he was like, do you want to step in and be the co-host? And like I said, it came out, I was on the show like 3 times, and then out of nowhere, it's like, hey, do you want to be the co-host? And I was like, yeah, dude, that'd be awesome. And it was right before our Dale Hollow trip. So I do one show, and we talked a little bit before the show, but I was like nervous the whole time. Like I wasn't talking a lot. On our show, with it being a product show, we share a lot of screens. I shared a screen, my Facebook popped up, and I was like, oh no, and like canceled out of it. Like it was a cluster for me. And I was and I kind of eased into it a little bit to where it's just more laid back. I was more serious in it than I thought, but went to Dale Hollow, man. And then ever since then, everyone in the group accepted me. They're like, yeah, you're a great ad. And I was like, I don't know how you think that, because our first show sucked, but that's fine. And it's been awesome since then, man, since about April of this year. So over a 2-year period and 3 appearances, I jumped right into a show, which was dope.
Awesome.
Yeah. Actually, I just listened to one today, and I don't even remember which one. I just whatever the new episodes are, I just hit the first one. And so I cut grass and do lawn care and landscaping. So I'm riding a mower most of the day. So yeah, I just go to new episodes and hit play, and it just skips to the next ones and all the ones I have subscribed to. So, just like Cam said, we're both podcast junkies, and we listen to a bunch of stuff. And what are some of your favorite ones? Obviously, the paddle and fin ones, but what other ones do you enjoy listening to?
So I'm a big fan of. So I listen to Meat Eater almost religiously. Steven Ranella, in my opinion, is the best hunter on the planet. Mostly because when he screws up, he tells you he screws up, or when he does something stupid. Like, you'll have a lot of these guys do hunting shows and stuff, and he'll come out and be like, "Well, I did it that way because of that." No, you did it that way because you messed up. Just say it. It's okay. It happens.
Yeah.
Like, I fell out of a tree stand last year because I was an idiot. Like, it happens. And but I love listening to the Meat Eater podcast because they don't just focus on the hunting ones. Like, my top two that I listen to have nothing to do with fishing, which is completely contradictory to like what I do 90% of the year. I mean, I have a dry suit, I fish in the winter, but I listen to the Meat Eater podcast, which is hosted by Steve Ranella and all his buddies, and then the Bear Grease podcast. And it's mostly for the simple fact that it's not always hunting related. Like, they'll do history, like the Bear Grease podcast. Clay just talks about random historical figures. Like, he did a whole thing on Lewis and Clark, like a 4-episode thing on Lewis and Clark, and it talked to historians and everything. Like, it's just, that's the stuff I'm interested in. And I'm still new to the podcast scene. Like, other than Meat Eater, I started listening once Brad got on your show. I started listening to your guys' show, and then it was the Dark Horse Tackle Company. Their show has also nothing to do with fishing. They just talk about off the wall. Like, they're talking about conspiracy theories one second, and then politics the next second, and then what they feed their dogs. Like, Josh and them, they're just funny. And I've been a buyer of their boxes for a while. But they sponsor our show now. But their show's awesome and has nothing to do with fishing, really, to be honest. But I was so I did lawn care too, and I was the audiobook guy. Like, I would read or listen to like 40 books a year. And I got into that in the Marine Corps. My first deployment was a MEU, which you go on a ship and you just stuck in a tin can with 1,000 other people for 8 months. And you can only go to the gym so many times a day. And I ran out of music like the first week I was in there. So I downloaded like 40 audiobooks, and that just got me hooked. And I listened to like military sci-fi stuff. So like Space Marines, and just like, I'm the nerdiest nerd when it comes to that. So I'm still in the audiobook craze, but I'm starting to get a lot more deep into podcasts. And it's really like those 4 are where I'm around. And then I listen to all the Paddle and Fin Cat podcasts when a new episode comes out, because half the time, because we're all goobers on the Paddle and Fin side, so half the time we'll jump in each other's shows. And I like just listening to the show so I can pinpoint when I jumped in a show, because you'll hear them laugh or something. Because I won't actually like go on screen. I'll just drop in. I'll do something stupid, and then I'll leave, and you'll hear them laugh. I just love that. It's hilarious. But they do it to us too, and then it makes me mad. But I do it to them, so it is what it is. But
That's good stuff.
That's
but
awesome. Yeah, man. I used to work. So I worked at a retail store, and then I worked at a church, and then my house. All three, they were like all 30 minutes away from each other in a triangle. So I spent a lot of time in the car. And before I started on podcasts, the audiobooks was something I burned through.
It makes driving so much better. Like, I listen to music all the time, and I listen to 2 genres, which is weird. Again, I listen to country, old country, new country sucks. I listen to older country, like 90s and 80s, and I listen to it's Christian alternative metal. I listen to that, and it's just like the band. Like, I'll be honest, half the bands now aren't Christian like they used to be, but it's still the same bands. And I'll listen to all that old stuff, but I haven't listened to any music past or newer than like 2018. Everything else is just old. So I get tired of music because I've heard the same song 40,000 times. But I can get a book, and I can read a book for a week in the car. And every time I'm driving my truck or anything, mowing, I've got a book. It's new. And another, believe me, there's another book. I finished so far. I just got Audible, just gave me my little star. I finished 67 books this year so far,
Nice.
which is my new like PB of books on Audible. So,
That's awesome. So,
yeah.
So Christian alternative metal that's a little bit older. So is that Wolves at the Gate, For Today, Under Oath?
Yes. Under Oath, original
Demon
Devil Wears
Hunter.
Prada. And fun fact, if you know anything about Devil Wears Prada, I grew up with all those dudes and used to see them at the small venue we had here in town.
Oh, that's
Same
neat.
with For Today. I saw them when they were like super tiny and they opened for a band that like, dude, you didn't know who they were and they were the opening band. So yeah, it's all that stuff. Like it's all old school, way better than what's out now.
Absolutely. All right, man. So I've got to ask and give you a little bit of a hard time. What was it that got you hooked on making sure that you spend more than $300 on everything you own? No,
See, that's how you know you listen to the show.
What was it that got you hooked on the JDM stuff, man?
A 2015 Metanium DC. So my buddy was in the Marine Corps with me, and he was a big fisherman too. And that's when you couldn't get JDM stuff here. And he was on eBay, and he spent like $500 on a reel. I was like, dude, you're ridiculous. And I was throwing circa 2014. I still got it. Lose BB1 Pro. And I was like, this is just as good. And then I threw his reel. I was like, this thing sucks. And so I went on eBay, bought one, and it was downhill from there. Like I was buying, like deployment money is a scary thing, especially someone who wasn't married, because I lived in the barracks. My housing was paid for. I could go to the chow hall and eat somewhat edible food. And like I had free water. Like the most expensive thing I had to buy was chewing tobacco, gear when I lost it, and Mountain Dew. That was about it. So yeah, I was getting eBay stuff to my barracks all the time. Like my first sergeant would come out and be like, what do you buy from eBay? Because of course the boxes say eBay and they're all in Japanese handwriting. I was like, it's fishing stuff, first sergeant. He was like, you're dumb. And just walk away. And I was like, yeah, I probably am, but I don't care. So that's what started it. But I'll be honest, man, what keeps me going back, and I'll stand by this to the day I die. And Josh from Dark Horse Tackle, if you are listening, you're mad at me, and that's okay, and I don't care. Japanese stuff is 100% better than 90% of the stuff that's made in the U.S. And it's only because they're about 10 years ahead of us in technology and everything. So yeah, that's why I just keep going back, because they're just better stuff, and they look cool. Like Megabass stuff just looks cool. Like you can't tell me this does not look cool. It's just a popper, and it's $19.99, and I bought it willingly, and I didn't feel bad about it. But I felt bad spending $7 on a 6 cents catwalk. Like it just is what it is. But yeah, man, I like quality. I'm a buy once type of person. So I buy once. Exactly. Believe me, that's why I'm a Browning dude. I've got a Maxxis Wicked Wing. I've got a A5 Sweet 16 for my Dove gun. I buy once and I cry once, and I never have to worry about it again. I love it. My wife hates it, but she also buys cheap stuff from Target and then has to buy the same thing 6 months later. So who's the smarter one? Still probably not me, but it's okay. So
That's awesome, man. But yeah, I had to make sure that I gave you a hard time about that, because it I don't know. I guess the first few episodes, it was like that you were on there. It was like, yeah, we get it. You like Shimano. Calm down, buddy.
Yeah. Well, it's still like that. That's all I talk about. But it's starting to get bad, because I've kind of so I'm with Douglas Rods this year, and I was with Megabass, not with them, but I just used Megabass rods before, and these Douglas rods are light years ahead of Megabass, in my opinion. I love them. They're awesome. But what sucks is you go down this rabbit hole and you can't claw yourself back out, because you just keep finding deals, which is what I do. I just find awesome deals. But I've got 6 combos sitting over there with the lowest end reel is a Bantam MGL, and I don't use them. So now I see them and I'm like, I'm so stupid. Like I've got 30 combos and I only use like 4 of them normally. So I have a problem, but the first step to fixing it is admitting it. So
At least you got the first step down.
yeah, I don't know if I'm going to get to steps 2 through whatever, but at least I got 1. I mean, it's fine. So
You said you were on the Bonafide team. What are you fishing out of?
so my primary boat is a Bonafide P127 in Venom Green, and then which it was supposed to be my big water boat, my tournament boat, but it's become I take it on every river trip because I can put the drive down 11 inches of water, so I use it everywhere. And then my river boat, I'll switch between an RS 117 or an SS 107. So
Okay.
it's technically my wife's boat, but I bought it for her.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got the P127 and then an SS 127. I had the SS 127 and then wanted to fish a few of the Hobies, so I picked up the P127. And yeah, I found myself just always in the P127. I don't feel like switching all the electronics back and forth, so I let my son fish out of the SS, and then I fish out of the P127. So I like it pretty good.
Yeah, so I did P127 review on our show. It comes out next Thursday. And one of the questions Brad asked me, he was like, because I was in his 127 a few times and did some trips in it. I personally think the P127 without the pedals paddles better than the SS 127. Personally,
That's
do you find that too?
Yeah, I like the P127. It does paddle better, and really, like I can stand up and fish out of the P127 a lot easier than the SS 127.
Yeah.
So there's some pros to that P127. The only thing that I wish was different, but it's just not. The deck on the SS 127 is a little bit higher, so you have a little bit less water to deal with. I stay a little bit drier in the SS than the P127, but it's got to get down that low for the pedals to make the turn.
Yeah, no, like my biggest con, I just wish I still had dry storage in front of me. I obviously know why I can't, and I wish it had a built-in cup holder. Like,
Yeah,
the cup holder's on the cover for the pedals, and I fish it in rivers. So when I hit a rock or something, my Nalgene always like goes flying. I lost it in the river. I had to buy a new one, which is annoying. But my full Nalgene's just in a 8-foot eddy right now, probably just sitting there with fresh water in it forever. I'm never going to get it back. So that's like, those are my only 2 gripes. There's some other things I talked about, but I mean, overall, I gave the boat 8.5 or 9 out of 10. Like, I think it's fantastic.
I like it.
Absolutely, yeah. So, let's. Sorry, I got the dogs in here with me, and they don't do anything quietly.
Well, of course.
But yeah, so one, I wanted to say thank you for your service. I know you served in the Marines, and then if you want to know his full story, I really highly suggest going and listening to that show with Armando on the Bass Kayak and Beers. It's a phenomenal episode. There's a reason it's one of, if not y'all's most listened to episode. It is phenomenal. But
I just found out about that like 2 months ago. We were doing a paddle and fin like after hours live show on Brian and oh man, my brain sucks. The OG show on Thursdays, and we were doing an after hours show, and me and Brad were fishing, so we were like coming in and out like because our cell signal sucks. So as I was driving home, we had it up, and it was, we were talking, and Armando said that, like, and this was a year and a half after the show. He's like, yeah, Matt, just so you know, I got a ton of messages. That's like the best show I've ever had. And I was like, well, I didn't know. And that was more like, what's the word? It made me more speechless than like being part of Paddle and Fin and being, like the viewer base liked me and all that stuff. Like, I was more, because that episode meant a lot, because there's stuff in there that I don't talk about like outside of it. unless I really know you or you explicitly ask me and I know you're going through the same thing. So that was like a harder show to do, but I'm really happy how it turned out. And Armando said it was, a super well received show. So
Absolutely, yeah. But I wanted to dive into your faith side of things. So, kind of give us an idea of what your faith story is, and kind of how that ties into your fishing.
I gotcha. So I grew up in a Southern Baptist home my whole life. I have great parents, great relationship with them, love them to death. And they were super, super involved in church, my local church, which we still go to. Cornerstone Baptist Temple here in Ohio. Then it was Cornerstone Baptist Church, but it's changed. And I grew up in a by the Bible type of household, to where, just like whether you're a by the Bible household or not, but the respect your parents, and I went to VBS every year, and then junior camp, and then senior camp, and it was every summer was at every Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night was at church. I was wearing khakis on Wednesdays and Sundays. So Wednesdays I got to wear khakis. Sundays I was in a tie that I hated from the age of 6 to now. I hate wearing a tie. Like I had to be in a wedding in 2.5 weeks, and I'm like, this is stupid. I have to wear a tie. But so I grew up in that, and then I went to Christian schools my whole life, from kindergarten all the way up to sophomore year, and then I went to a public school from there. Mostly because I was an idiot. I was that rebellious, and I think it's a lot of church kids are especially like this. I always heard growing up, the pastor's kid was always the worst kid in your youth group, because you're so, it's not like forced down your throat, but you're so ingrained in it that I just wanted to rebel because it was something different. So by sophomore year, me and Christian schools weren't vibing. And from there, I kind of fell out of church. Like at my parents, I only went Sunday mornings. I wasn't going Sunday nights with them or Wednesday nights. They kind of didn't want to force it on me anymore. And I kind of, I fell out a little bit. I moved out, got an apartment with Brad. And, I doing what every 18-year-old idiot does, and was doing stupid stuff and just being an idiot. And for a lack of a better word, I'm going to call myself that a lot in this story because I just how I was. And then was like that from about 18 to 21 when I joined the Marine Corps, mostly because I felt like my life was going nowhere, and I knew I was having conviction from the Lord to come back into, the reason why you feel nothing is because you're not, striving to better yourself in my word and spread the word, things like that. So I was like, well, I'm not going to listen to that. I'm going to join the Marine Corps. So I did, which was the best decision I ever made, because at boot camp for about 6 weeks of the 13 I was there, every Sunday you get to go to church or you get to stay back at the barracks. So I stayed at the barracks, and I just got smoked every Sunday morning. Even though I wasn't supposed to get smoked by drill instructors, I got smoked anyway. And so I was like, you know what? Instead of getting smoked, I'll just go to church. And then I have an hour and a half of away time. So I went into it. I just want this hour and a half break. And about 3 weeks into that, conviction really started to hit. I started getting a lot closer to God. And boot camp and the Marine Corps really pushed me back into it. But I had a different outlook on it. And I kind of went through this throughout the whole Marine Corps. So when I got out of boot camp, the only times I really went to organized church was when I was back visiting family, because we'd go back to my church and see all the people I pretty much grew up with. And, when I was visiting, but I didn't go to church when I was down in Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, not too far from you. I went up to Raleigh a couple times. And I kind of I basically held church with myself. And I would, throughout the week, I'd read the good book, or I would, take time out. And that kind of evolved into kind of what my faith is now, to where I like to say the church I go to is the outdoors. So I live stream a service from a local church that I know, like the pastor of, or even my church, every Sunday, because I usually fish Sunday mornings, and I live stream when I'm out on the river by myself, and I listen to church, and I feel like it's really, the outdoors have helped me with a lot of things. I can kind of decentralize from all my problems I've got going on in life, because as adults, obviously, you have the house to worry about, family to worry about, and especially as men, because, we don't ever get to talk about any of our major problems. We just bottle it up. And I said it today, we just bottle it up till we're 60, and then we have a heart attack, and then everyone cares about us. That's just how it is, unfortunately. But I can kind of get out of everything and really just focus on either what the sermon I'm listening to is, what the pastor's talking about, or if I'm not live streaming, I can kind of just think, what did I typically use Sunday as my refresh day. So what did I do wrong this week? What can I do better? How can I share the word? Which that's been my biggest thing. Like growing up, every Wednesday before church, we had visitation, to where they pack all the youth group kids up in a tiny short bus, and you go out to a neighborhood and you pass tracts out and talk to people. And I always sucked at that. I hated talking to people. I felt like I didn't know what I was talking about. So I've been working on that too. But like my faith story, really, it's been a lot of roller coasters, which I think a lot of people's faith stories like that. I mean, you look at Paul, who was a persecutor, and then he became one of the greatest warriors in Christ that was in the Bible. So it's been a major roller coaster, and I think, that's just your journey is always going to be a roller coaster, and you just have to have a way to be able to get back into it and get back on the path. So.
Absolutely. That is awesome. So whenever you're out, fishing or hunting or out in the outdoors, and you're live streaming, a lot of people won't view that as church.
Oh, I know. Yeah. I mean, I've been told that. Yeah.
What is, I guess the correct question is, what is church to you then?
Church to me is it's how I look at it. So church in the Bible can be anywhere. It doesn't have to be in a building. It doesn't have to be major, a major religion. It's whenever two or more people are gathered together to talk about the Lord or pray to the Lord. That's church. It says it in the Bible. So how I look at it when I'm live streaming, there's other people live streaming with me for various reasons. I know another guy who live streams the same services I normally do, doesn't go for the same reason I do. I just can't. I don't like being around a ton of people at one time. Now, do I think I'm going to walk into church and something's going to happen? Deep down, I know, probably not going to happen. But there's a chance, and my brain just won't stop. I can't focus on the sermon because I'm always looking over my shoulder, or, something's caught my eye and I can't stop focusing on it. So, I look at it as church because there's other people who are like me who are doing the same thing. And then at the same time, I also view it as there are certain circumstances to where you can't be in that organized religion, not scenario, but environment, to where, there's a reason, you can't go. Maybe you have to work every Sundays, because while we were based on a Christian nation and everyone had Sundays off, that doesn't happen that way anymore. And some people don't have an option. Like I have to work every other Sunday. It's how it is. I can't get the days off, or I just won't work there. And it's just not an option right now. So, I think if your church can be different for everybody. Church isn't the same as it was. Now, if it was, 1883 and everyone had Sundays off because it was the day of rest, and you had evangelists running around the country holding sermons for 12 hours with 40,000 people, and everyone who worked was fine with you being there, that was a different time. Church has kind of evolved, and I think it has to continue to evolve if we're going to continue to be able to, witness and get the word out. Because unfortunately, which I've heard a couple of your guests have said, that unfortunately large organized religion has kind of shut off a lot of people to the Lord and Jesus Christ and what he did for us, for the simple fact that they've been slighted in some way because they went to a bad church, or they wasn't even a bad church, but they met a person there who was nasty, and it's just they don't want to go back. So I think we have to continue to evolve to change what church is defined as to where it's open-ended, as long as it ends with learning the word of Jesus Christ, or studying it, things like that.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, that's a great point, and I'm probably a touch older than both of you guys. And when I 15 years ago, me and my wife worked in the restaurant business, and it was the same way. I mean, it was before we had kids. We both worked every Sunday because that's one of the busier days in the restaurant business. And then once we had kids, one of us would take off Saturday, the other one would take off Sunday. So we would rotate each weekend, and it was the same. It's hard to get plugged in to something that's happening every week, and that was before live streaming. So even if you were trying to go every other Sunday, you were by yourself with the kids, and then you would miss the sermon, and the sermons always, most of the time, build on each other.
Yeah.
And so I'm glad that the church that I go to, they live stream too, and if for some reason we miss, there's that option of just turning that on. But as I've gotten older and the jobs have changed, the kids are older, one thing that I do love about going to church is the interaction of, it used to be called Sunday school. It's not that way anymore. We do a community group, and we rotate people's houses. And it's like you said earlier about, you're not supposed to talk about those things. And then you just, keep it bottled up and you have a heart attack at 60. Hopefully that's not the case. But, those community groups, a lot of times there'll be the 4 or 5 families, and the kids will go upstairs, and a lot of times we'll sit together with the women. Sometimes we'll break into 2 different groups, and that can be super helpful in getting some of those things out there with some people that are trusting. And so that's the one thing really in the last, I would say, 7 years that's really helped me grow and help me get a lot of that stuff out there and not hold as much in, is that community group. And a lot of times sometimes you'll find that on the water with some of these fishing groups. Matt Ball, before the Hobie BOSs, he is getting a group of people together, and they're talking about faith. So there are these pockets in all of these clubs, and Queen City, they do the prayer before the tournaments. Cam does a prayer call before our club's tournaments, and so it may not be that you're walking through those church doors every Sunday, but if you're in the Word and then you're sharing those moments and faith journey with some other people around you, it may be on the water. Sometimes that's as much or more beneficial than walking through those church doors. So any way you can get it done.
Oh,
Absolutely.
yeah, 100% agree.
And I think something that's special about those groups too is like the Central Carolina kayak fishing, or Matt Ball's group or whatever. You've got a group of people who are all from various denominations and walks of life and worldviews and things. And I think one thing that is I understand why it is, but something that is not necessarily, I don't want to say dangerous or detrimental, but it's getting to the point of those two things in the churches. We have so many denominations and groups of people that we tend to do church with people that believe the exact same thing we do, and we don't do a whole lot of growing that way. So one of the things that's special about these groups of getting people together that all have different views on different things, whether it be something like baptism. One denomination, like he believes that he believes that he should baptize babies and do it by sprinkling, and this guy believes that immersion after salvation is where that lies. And whenever we can get together and talk about those things instead of you know yeah when instead of sticking to I believe this and you believe the same thing I do, so I'm going to hang out with you. We It ends up being kind of stagnant, and yeah, so definitely something that's special there.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. How I like to say it is, you go to church and no one take this comment as me saying the Bible's bad. The Bible's the best book's ever been written. It was written with holy conviction, so everything in it has a reason. You can read it 400 times, and you'll get something new every time you read it. But when you go to church, you can hear about the story of Jonah so many times. You can hear about a certain sermon that I think I've heard and been. My pastor was at the hospital when I was born. He's so I was the point. Me, his grandson, and another one of my buddies, we were the point of half of his sermons at some points. And I go to a larger church. We have upwards of 1,000 people on Sundays. So growing up as a teenager, everyone knew who Matt Sowders, Zach Smith, and Mason Seiler were, because we were always in the sermon at one point, because I was over at his house and I didn't listen, and I shot Mason in the eye with a Nerf gun. And that was because I didn't listen to Pat. It was always something. But when you get in those groups and you can really talk to other people about certain views, even if your religions are similar but different in certain aspects, you can kind of see they're taking this part of the Bible a little bit differently, or you can get a different view on it. So yeah, I 100% agree with what you said, Cam. It's a great way to grow, kind of open those conversations up. I will say I also kind of hate those conversations because I don't know how to approach it certain times. Like, I believe baptism after salvation. And if someone, says, I'm the type of person who's like, well, it's America. I fought for a reason. You can believe what you want to believe. I'll believe what I believe. I'm not going to not be your friend. But it's some of those conversations, like, I don't want to get into, for the simple fact that I was like, I don't really know if you're going to change my mind here. So why are we talking? It's the same with politics. I don't talk to anybody about politics because this is rude, and everyone's allowed to have their own opinion. I just don't care what yours is. And like, it's just how there's no point in talking about it, because you're not going to change my mind, which I've had my foot in my mouth a couple times with that. But some of those times I just don't know how to approach those conversations. So that's one thing I wish I could get better at, because sometimes it's very awkward.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, man. So there are a couple questions that we always ask every guest, and I apologize to you and to anyone watching the video. I keep looking off screen here. The baby monitor is there, and I keep looking over to check on him. But yeah. So, what fishing story or memory means the most to you, Matt?
I've got a few. One of the better memories I have actually happened earlier this year. My dad, he travels for umpires, so he's an umpire. He does Division I college softball from February to about May down in Florida. And he always gets, like, he does all the championships down there for the Division I stuff. He always texts me. He's like, "Oh, I've got Ohio State versus Illinois today," or something. All these. It's softball, which, as someone who, during the summer, me and my dad run softball tournaments up here, and I used to be, as a baseball guy who was going to college to play it, I was like, softball's just curls. That's just what it is. No, I've tried to hit a couple of those 18U pitchers. Yeah, it didn't go in what I thought it would go. When I was hitting like a 320 in high school, hitting, D1 commits, and been like, yeah, it's fine. No, a rise ball's scary. Scarier, and I'll get out. But he was down there, and he was sick for a little bit, but he's my dad. He would have been the perfect Marine himself, and he was never in, but he'll push through anything. He'll never tell you anything's wrong with him, because he's like most dads. He's not going to tell you, your son, what's going on with him if he's hurting or anything. But he was going, and one morning he woke up and about passed out. His guy he was rooming with, thank God, didn't have a game that day. Took him to the hospital, and he was diagnosed with severe diverticulitis, to the point they said if he was another day, there's a good chance he could have went septic. And like diverticulitis, if you don't know what it is, for listening, look it up. It's a nasty thing that if you don't get taken care of, it's life threatening. So I found out about that, and I was like, okay, well, you're not driving home, because he drives down and drives back. I was like, there's no way you're making it home. So he was in the hospital for about 2 weeks, lost about 20 pounds. And then me and my mom, I took work off. Me and my mom flew down there. But of course, I had to bring a little bag of plastics. And because I'm going to Florida for 4 days while my dad's still recuperating. And I had to bring a reel. So I got down there. My dad was better, still weak, but he said it was mostly, like the doctor said, you're weak probably because you've been in the hospital for 2 weeks. You're taken care of. You just can't eat sunflower seeds anymore and peanuts for a while and greasy foods, which he ate pizza the day I was there. So he still just doesn't care. And so he was like, yeah, I'm fine. You and your mom, you're in Florida, you do what you want. So of course my mom wanted to go to Disney Springs one day because she's a Disney nut. So we went there one day. But the first thing I did, I got down there and made sure he was okay. About 3 hours later, I was like, hey, I got to go to Bass Pro to get a rod. He's like, what do you mean? I was like, I brought a reel and I brought plastics. I got to go get a rod. So he's like, okay. So I went and I bought a rod at the Bass Pro in Orlando, got back to a little pond that was in the housing area he was staying at. And I caught like 3 or 4 largemouth. Got way too close to an alligator to feel comfortable. And then I went back, and then he's like, the next day he's like, my dad's never been a big outdoors guy. He doesn't hunt. He gets mad when I shoot a deer or a duck or a dove. Like, he doesn't care. He hates that I kill all of them. And he doesn't fish. We did when I was younger, but it was just because I think he wanted me to not bug him about stuff. And he came out with me the next day. And this is another joy of the DC technology from Japan. My dad's never thrown a bait caster, and I had a lipless crankbait tied on, and he came out with me. Hot day, you can tell he was struggling a little bit, but he took my rod. He's like, I'm going to cast it. So he casts it, and he's reeling it back, doesn't get a fish. And it's like, I mean, it's 100 degrees. It's hot. Like I wouldn't be surprised if I don't catch anything. Cast it again, doesn't get a fish. And he gave it back, and he's like, yeah, I'll watch you. And the next cast, I caught a largemouth on it. And I was like, yeah, I was casting the same spot you were casting. And it sits in my brain now. There's a lot of stuff. My head has hit the top of a Humvee going. If you listen to the show, I like to say mock Jesus a lot, or choice. So, I mean, it hit the top of a Humvee really hard. So I'll be honest, a lot of my memories, it sucks. I can get pieces of them. Like growing up fishing, I remember where we went to fish, and I remember my dad taking a bluegill off the hook, but I can't remember the rest of the memory. It's bad. But that's easily probably one of my best memories, because I got to fish with my dad as an adult when, it's a great hobby. And I send him all my pictures now. Every time I catch a fish, we'll be at church, and I'll be like, yeah, Pastor made a great point. And I'll text him, and he's like, yeah. And then I'll send him a picture of a smallmouth I caught, why he made a great point. It's like, he made such a great point, smallmouth jumped on my boat. And that's awesome to be able to share, that, because baseball was our thing in sports. And obviously I got old, and college didn't work out because, again, I was an idiot. So, yeah, that's definitely the best fishing memory that I've had recently.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Robert.
No, I was just going to add, it's one thing, a lot of people will be like when I was a kid and fishing with my dad. And that's one of mine, my favorite memories is fishing with my dad. And, sharing that as an adult, when you guys didn't do it that much, that makes it even better. So that was a good one. What about when you're, go ahead, Cam.
I was going to say, I almost lost my dad to diverticulitis back. Yeah, man. I guess I was 4th or 5th grade. And he had stomach issues and just wouldn't go to the doctor. And whenever he finally did go to the doctor, it was like, you had a matter of hours, like before. So definitely understand that. And I definitely understand the like the recovery, and got to make sure. I remember, Daddy ordering stuff with like ordering a burger with 2 bottom buns because he couldn't have the sesame seeds. Um, yeah.
Yeah, it's see, my dad, like they told him it's like no greasy food, no sesame seeds, no peanuts. So this guy, he eats a pizza. Heck, 'cause we took 2 days to get home. Normally, I drive straight through. He's done it before, but he's like, I just can't sit in the car that long. And I was like, well, it's because you don't have a truck. It's not comfortable, but it's fine. So I had to dig at him a little bit, which I think I almost talked him into getting his first truck in his whole life. We'll see. It's a Ford Maverick, but I'm gonna take it. So we stopped in Atlanta, or no, we stopped at a gas station, a Casey's down there or something. I think it was a Casey. I don't know. It's gas station pizza. So he comes out with a slice eating it. I was like, you're not supposed to eat that. It's gotta be fine. But then we go to Culver's and he wants a sandwich. He's like, I can't have any sesame seeds. I was like, you just ate a gas station pizza. Like it has more grease than like all of Pizza Hut combined, man. Like, but you're worried about the seeds. He's like, yeah, that's way worse. I was like, what doctor did you talk to? Like, is this the guy from The Simpsons or something? Because he doesn't sound smart. I will say there's another memory because my wife likes to peek in on some podcasts. She doesn't listen to my show, but she listens when I'm on other people's shows. My wife has not caught a fish since she was with her dad. And her dad passed away when she was, I hope she doesn't listen because I can't remember. I think 14, 12 or 14 in there somewhere. But she fished with him. He was me and my buddy, and this is all jest. Me and my buddy like to poke fun at cat fishermen. Because we're like, yeah, you just cast out there and you wait. Like that's not fishing, that's waiting and reeling. But so I poke fun that like if her dad was around, I'd be like, yeah, he's just a cat fisherman, just what it is. And but she hadn't caught a fish, so I got that SS107 for her, so she would go out with me. And the first time I take her out, she refuses to learn to use a spinning reel. She refuses to throw a bait caster, so she rocks. I think it's still back here somewhere. She rocks a Shakespeare push button. And I took her out and I put a little EWG and I put a little Kitech on it. And it wasn't even a Kitech. I didn't want to risk her ruining a Kitech, so I put a Big Bites bait swimmer on it. And it's in this pond that has largemouth in it, good sized largemouth, bluegill and stuff. I was like, maybe, just throw those lilies right on the edge and the largemouth will come up and destroy that, which is true. I don't know what test line that is. I thought she's going to get a fish. It's just going to break off because it's Shakespeare ugly stick combo. So it probably has 4-pound like suffix on it or something. And I'm fishing over here, caught a fish. She's mad. So she goes away from me because whenever she hasn't caught a fish in the whole time I've known her. So like 11 years. And I'm over here facing away from her in the P127, getting used to the pedals and like, understanding that a pedal drive's not going to turn on a dime. So I'm like, this thing doesn't even turn. Like I was mad. And then it worked out great once I figured it out. And I just hear, babe. And that first thing I thought of is like, there's so many water moccasins in this pond. I guarantee you there's a snake swimming at her. And I'm not going to get there in time because I have to pedal through lily pads. And so I pull the pedal up immediately and I look back and her rod is bent over. Like I was like, oh my gosh, what is going on? She's like, I got a fish. Like freaking out. It's like, don't horse it. She's like, what's that mean? I was like, just play with it. And she's just sitting there doing this. It's going around. And she pulls up a Fish Ohio 14.5-inch crappie. And it is sitting about that far off her tip. That's how much line she left out. She's like, yeah, I got it. And I was like, put it back in the water. Like yelling, like screaming across this pond. Get over there. And I pull, I get it by the lip and I take the hook out. I was like, you got to hold it. She's like, no. I was like, you're holding the fish. So she holds it and she's like, oh, it's not that bad. And it had a slime coat on it. And she was like, this is so gross. I was like, well, I got to get a picture for the gram. So I took a picture and then we got a slow motion release video, which that video got 40,000 views, which was insane. It's probably just because my wife was in it. It was a My Ugly Mug, but whatever. But yeah, that's another great memory. Both my memories happened within the last 8 months and it's awesome. I love it.
Yeah.
So.
That's funny. My dad's reel of choice is a Zebco 33. So, and he outfishes me every time we fish.
And I'll tell you, a Zebco 33 will outlast us, especially the ones like I still have the one I had as a kid. It's sitting right over there. And I guarantee you, all I have to do is put one little dab of this reel butter on it, and it'll be good for another 20 years. I don't understand they should never change the design because now they break all the time. But those are
Yeah,
tanks.
I was getting ready to say once. I don't want to bash brands, but once they got bought out by who, that's
Pure Fishing. I'll bash them because they own everybody now, and everything they buy sucks.
do they own Quantum? Because that's who bought
They
Zipco.
Pure Fishing owns Quantum, Abu, Shakespeare, Ugly Stick, Zebco, Eagle Claw, which is why all their hooks suck and rust immediately because they don't have a coating on them anymore because it costs too much money. I run a product show and I bash companies all the time. It's how it is. If you want an honest show, the Final Cast is where you're at because I don't care. Who else? They own a couple. They own Suffix now, which is why you see their the 832 and the 131 are the only 8-strand braids they have anymore. All the other braids that were 8-strand are now 4 or 6 because it costs too much money. And why 832 jumped up to like $28 a spool instead of 21. So yeah, Pure Fishing ruined American fishing.
There you go. That might be the clip for this week. Just that little right there.
I see. It's like Brad will get like we go on rabbit hole rants all the time. That has nothing to do like the show, the P127. We went on like 4 rabbit holes that had nothing to do with kayak fishing at all. Like one was I was talking about hunting. I think Brad was talking about. What was he talking about? Like we were talking about the drink of choice, like Mountain Dew or water or something. Because I don't drink water, I drink Mountain Dew like all the time. That's all I drink. And yeah, it's awesome. So I'll go on those little rants, and it's great. It's even better when guests are on the show that are like important, and I go on a rant about a completely different thing, and they're like, "All right, I mean, okay." So, oh yeah.
So we get back to the next question. When you're out on the water, what's your normal conversation? What are you talking about with some guys out on the water?
So typically, I pretty much fish with the same core of guys every weekend or during the week. We all meet up after work on Thursdays or Tuesdays, and we'll go on a float Saturday or Sunday because we don't fish big bodies of water. We just fish our rivers here. And at the very littlest case, it's me and Brad. So we've got to the point to where when we get on the water, we'll point out, I'll say, "Oh, dude, that looks really good over there. We gotta eddy up and fish this spot." Or I'll start catching fish like Saturday. I caught the first fish on a jig, and Brad's like, "Jig?" And I was like, "Yep." Caught the next fish on a jig, and he was like, "What color are you throwing?" And I showed him everything. So I'm talking about lure choices, and I like to take guys who are new to fishing and kayak fishing in general out. So I'll actually give like little hip pocket classes like, "Hey, what are you throwing?" "Well, I'm throwing this, perch color. We have no perch in our rivers. I'm throwing this perch colored crankbait." And I was like, "Cool, man. That's the wrong bait to throw. Do you have like a sexy shad crankbait or a shad crank?" Like I'm talking about that stuff. And then I'll talk about the lunch that I've brought. I'm a big talker about whatever lunch I brought or Stacy brought or made for me. My wife, Stacy. Whatever she makes me is always elaborate, and I always bring tortillas and peanut butter, and I don't make them here. I just put them in a cooler, and then I make it when I'm on the water because it's easy and it tastes delicious. So yeah, it's just like the show. It's all over the place. I'll be talking about like on Sundays when Brad, I'll say, "Hey, this was just in the service," and then 5 minutes later, I'll say, "Dude, I could go for a McDonald's like sandwich right now, like a breakfast." Like it's just I'm the most scatterbrained dude when I'm out there. It's not even funny. So
Good. That makes it interesting for sure.
no, oh yeah.
But we also have the "What's Your Favorite" segment. And so I'll start that. And the first on what's your favorite scripture?
Growing up, it was Jesus wept in James because it was easy and it was short and I could always answer it. And as cliche as it is, my favorite scripture will always be John 3:16. It's the tried and true, for God so loved the world, he gave his only son. I mean, it gives you the exact plan of salvation and why it happened in one verse. It's pretty straightforward, and I love it because it's the easiest icebreaker because even if the people aren't religious, they know John 3:16.
Yep.
Either they saw Tim Tebow wearing it on some I'm Black when he was playing for Florida and they looked it up, or they've seen it in TV shows or something. They know what it is. So I love that verse because it's
It's
straight
universal.
into it's universal for everybody. So
Yeah. Awesome. What's your favorite Bible story if you had to just pick one?
If I had to pick one, I would pick Saul to Paul. Pretty much the whole story from Saul to Paul, for the simple fact that I take a lot of pieces of it for my own life, because for a long time, the difference is I wasn't, growing up, I was all about it, and then I fell out of it real bad. But I was, when I was out of it, I'm not gonna lie, I would persecute, guys. Oh, you go to church still every Sunday? You're 18 years old. You don't need to do that. You can do what you want. You're an adult. You don't need to go just because our parents, especially guys I went to church with. Because I'd be like, hey man, do you want to come out Sunday? Oh, I'm going to the Bengals are playing the Browns and I got tickets, because I'm a Browns fan. Don't make fun of me. And I'd be like, dude, I got tickets. We're going. And he's like, dude, I can't. I got church. Dude, you're 18. You don't need it. So I would persecute, or I would poke fun, and and so I really take that story to heart, because I kind of lived it, not to the extent, I don't think it's weird, because I hate saying like, oh yeah, I take pieces of that because I lived that, but I didn't live that, but I did in my own mind. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. So let's see, your favorite fish to catch. So you've already got the bite and you're reeling it in. What's your favorite fish to fight or catch?
Smallmouth bass. It is the best fighting fish in the United States, other than a peacock. A peacock will give it a run for its money, but smallmouth bass all day long.
Yeah, I like that one too. So now I kind of go to the flip side of that. What's your favorite fish to fish for? So before you're catching it,
Same. Still smallmouth bass.
Okay.
We've got a lot of largies in our lakes and stuff here, and then we got some on the river. I will say a river largemouth is super fun because they're super spread out up here. Like, it's not common. So when I get one, I'm fighting it. They fight like smallmouth because they're in the river. They're usually not huge, but they fight like they're bigger. So when you see that green fish come out of the river, you're like, oh, this is awesome. But
yeah,
smallmouth bass is, if I could fish for one fish the rest of my life, and someone put me in a cabin on Lake Oneida or, in Wisconsin, it was a smallmouth only, I wouldn't be upset. I'd catch them for every day, every second, and be happy about it.
Yeah, I'm always intrigued when they get to the northern swings on all the circuits, and because in the South you don't get to fish like that. You don't have the big water. There are some smallmouth, but usually you're having to travel for them. And there's never been any that's been super close to where I've lived at. But that's always intrigued me, and just watching those guys. And now even with you have the live scope, and they're sitting there and they're live scoping them, and they're really figuring out what makes them tick. And it's intriguing to me to sit and watch those guys catch those big lake smallmouths.
Oh yeah, that's a whole different breed from a river smallmouth too. Those smallmouth act different, want different things. They're more, some of them, the river smallmouth are more aggressive, but the big smallmouth are more ambush characteristic. It's awesome. So, yeah.
Cool. What about to eat? What's your favorite fish to eat?
So I don't eat fish.
All right.
And now I don't go out and target. So I'll take it back. I'll eat crappie every second of every day, and I'll eat deep fried catfish all the time. But I don't target crappie, and I don't target catfish. If I get a catfish on the line, I'd rather just cut my line. I hate having them in my boat because they're slimy and disgusting.
Yeah,
they don't fight. Yeah, it's just I'm just not about it. But I will eat crappie if someone brought me a plate. I'm not going to say no. And tilapia, I'll eat tilapia. But I don't target them ever. If I catch them, I'll put them back every time. I don't keep fish. And if you listen to the show, Brad will always say some stupid joke. He's like, yeah, I ate a bunch of smallmouth, and I'll just say, shut up. Because it just makes me mad. It's a game fish. You're not supposed to eat bass. I understand people do, but I don't know. I'm just not about it. So
I'm with you. So you talked about your lunch earlier that your wife makes you. What about your snack? What's your favorite fishing snack?
My favorite fishing snack is two things. So for a long time, it's been the snackables, or no, the Smucker's snackable like peanut
Oh,
butter
yeah.
and jelly sandwiches.
Yeah.
I can't remember what they're called, but I love those things. Those things are a snack, and you get 4 or 5 of them. They're a meal.
Yeah.
And but lately it's changed. Have you seen
Uncrustables.
Uncrustables? That's
Yeah,
what it is. I
there you
love
go.
those things. The strawberry ones, I can't find them in my Kroger here, so I have to go to like Sam's Club and buy the giant boxes of them. But it's fine because I eat them all. Or it's new, at least that I've seen it. Pop-Tarts have little
The mini
bite-sized
ones.
Pop-Tarts.
Yeah.
I just
those.
found those a week ago.
Yeah.
And I buy them in every gas station I see them, and I buy the packs at Kroger now. And that's like my go-to snack. Like I just have 2 of them on either side of the boat, and I just grab one when I'm ready, and I'll eat the whole thing and then dump it in my mouth. And then 20 minutes later, I was like, man, that was really good. And I'll get the other one, and then I won't have a snack the rest of the day because I eat it within the first hour I'm out there.
That's the worst thing when you're sitting there eating something. And I actually did it with a sandwich today. I stopped back by the house and made 2 peanut butter jelly sandwiches. And I ate one before I ever got back outside to the truck. And I went back outside to the truck, and I'm driving down the road, and I'm like, I swear I didn't eat both of those sandwiches. And it's like, you sit there, especially when I'm fishing, I do it all the time. I'll reach back in the cooler and get something and eat it. And I'm like, oh man, that was good. Reach back, get another one. And then you reach back and it's like, damn, all my stuff is gone. I'm like, did I eat all that? Because I don't even remember eating it all. And then when it's gone, I'm like, oh my gosh.
So here's what I do now to fix that problem. My go-to like meal, because it's easy, is I'll bring a big jar of Peter Pan peanut butter, smooth, and a whole thing of flour tortillas and a knife. And I could eat, those flour tortillas, I get the ones that are like that big, the 6 inchers or the 5 inchers. I get 100 of them. And that peanut butter, I've ate like Saturday, I ate 9 just because it was there. And I love peanut butter. So yeah, that's how I solved the problem.
That works. I may try that. So what about body of water? What's your favorite body of water to fish?
Favorite body of water I fished in my whole life would be Lake Okeechobee in Florida. I know it's not a smallmouth body. Like smallmouth body or a body of water I would want to fish the rest of my life would probably be either Dale Hollow or Lake Oneida. Those 2 would be awesome because they're full of smallies and they're huge. But Lake Okeechobee is a special place in my heart because I got my PB largemouth. It's a 12.5-pound largemouth I got out of there. I'm never going to beat that again, just how life is, unless I go to California or stay in Florida for a month. But I'll give you 3.
12 and a half is pretty tough.
Yeah, it's a good fit. Like I've caught a couple, a 5 here is like a 10 plus down south in Ohio because we just don't have big fish. So I've caught a couple 5s and been like, oh, it's cool. And I've caught a 9 down south, and that's awesome. But I'm not going to beat a 12 and a half, which is probably why I like brown fish better than green fish because I still have a chance to beat the brown fish.
Yeah. I'm sitting on 9-1, but not a 12 and a half. That's a once in a lifetime right there.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah, it was special. And what sucks is I was on leave from the Marine Corps, went down there with my buddy, fished, caught it. The picture was on my phone. This was before iCloud was a thing. I had an Android. Went back, got in my kayak, and I fished some of the New River that runs through Jacksonville. And a big old gator was coming up on me, and I freaked out and started paddling real fast. And I didn't have my phone tethered, my Android, and it plopped right out and right in the water. And I didn't send the picture to anybody. It's that phone with that picture is corroding away right now in a river in Jacksonville, North Carolina. So yeah, it sucks. Yeah, it sucks so bad. But I've got it in my brain. That's the one memory that didn't go away. So
I hear you. What's your favorite time of the year? If you had to pick a time of the year,
fall. Yeah,
fall. Get some of that top water bite.
Top water bite. The smallmouth, especially, are so much more aggressive. They're starting to eat, and they're just as aggressive, if not more, than they are during the spring. So they're one to eat everything. You can go out and catch numbers and catch good fish all the time. So yeah, fall, definitely fall.
Yeah. And then last but not least, favorite lure.
Oh, that changes. Favorite lure that if I knew I could throw it year round and catch fish on it is the jerkbait.
Okay.
Like I said, I'm the JDM guy. I throw nothing but Mega Bash Vision 110s. I've got 2 boxes full of them, which is a lot of money, and 2 boxes of jerk baits. But I will throw those. If I could throw them in the middle of summer and catch fish on them consistently, I would. But right now, my favorite bait would probably have to be the Jig Masters finesse jig with a Nico crawl on the back of it. And if you haven't checked out that finesse jig for either of you, it's the same size as a normal jig, so it's not super finessey. It's got a finesse skirt on it, but it's got a EWG hook with a screw lock in the head, so you can 100% Texas rig almost your bait, make it completely weedless, and throw in whatever slop you want. And it's awesome.
I'll have to check that out. I was on their Jigmaster site today. I think it was today or yesterday, looking at stuff.
Yeah, the finesse jig is bomb. It's choice.
Well, we were about to go into the hunting segment of the Faith and Fishing podcast, but I see Cam has rejoined, so I guess we'll have to save that for another time.
He's muted.
Yeah. Unmute. There you go.
There we go. Yeah, I was gonna say you can go for it, man. But sorry about that. I fully expected to be called away because the baby was crying, not because the dog peed on the bed behind me.
Well,
so we've got 2 dogs, and one of them lived outside for the first year that she was alive before we adopted her, and she never fully got the hang of potty training. The other dog, most well potty trained dog I've ever seen, she rings a bell when she has to go outside. Like she
that's good.
She knows what she's doing. But the other one, she holds it until she can't, and then she'll go outside and get distracted by a toad or a squirrel or something, and then come back inside, run upstairs, jump on the bed, pee, and then come down like all guilty and like sit at your feet like.
Yeah, with their head down.
Yeah. Oh man, yeah. It's funny because the same thing. We got a golden retriever here in Ohio when me and Stacy got married. Went down south, helping my buddy find a dog. I found a husky wolf mix that was getting rehomed. He had lived outside his whole life. He was 2. No, he was 1 when we got him. Same thing, and he's the same way. Like to the point now, he's fine. Like last year, he was doing that. Like he'd go outside. He's not a typical husky. He just doesn't yell. Well, he does now because he's finally realized what he is. But he's not like crazy. You don't have to. He sleeps all day. He's the laziest dog on earth. And but he would go outside, pee a little bit, and then come inside and pee on a chair, like the whole bladder. And I'd look at him and be like, "What are you doing? Like, stop it!" Like, and I'd just sit there and be like, And now he's finally learned. He doesn't ring a bell. He'll just scream at you at all hours of the day. So 2 a.m. you just hear husky yelling. And I'm like, yep, he's got to go outside. And then I'll take him out. He'll do his stuff, go right upstairs, go right back to sleep. It's like the jerk he is. Yeah. So.
So I have no clue where we are. So
we went through all the favorites, and so I mean, really, I don't know. We're at an hour 15. So I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to cover.
No, man, we can go ahead and start wrapping things up. So yeah, Matt, what do you have coming up for you? Let us know what's coming up for you, what's coming up for Final Cast, if you're allowed to say that kind of thing, and all that. Good
stuff. So we have a lot of good. So if like me personally, I didn't get a chance to fish one whole tournament this year, which sucks. I went out for like 4 hours on a tournament and then had to leave. So I next year, I might be seeing if either one of you guys do any of the Bassmaster events. I might see you there because I'm gonna try to do at least 3. Meet up with Dan Perry and a couple other ones. So that's on the scene for next year. The rest of this year is kind of just preparing. I'm excited. This is going to be my first full winter fishing. So I get to enjoy being in a dry suit with a neoprene gasket around my throat, choking me out for the first 6 months. with the final cast, we've got a lot of really good shows coming up. iCast was just in, a couple months ago, so we've already had some really good shows through it. We had Feel Free Kayaks, Bonafide, some of the bigger kayak companies, and then we got some bait companies coming up. One I'm super excited about, which I don't know when this would air, but not the next show, not the 22nd show, but the show after that. If you're listening to this before, definitely check that out because that's going to be with Nico Baits. It's a bait company I just found a couple months ago. It's the same super plastic or elastic that Z-Man uses, but it's a much purer form of it. So those baits, like a pack of 6 crawls, don't get sticker shock. They're like $13. On the back of a jig, I have had multiple smallmouth that I have watched tear regular plastics, especially Guggens and Gary Yamamoto's, tear them in half on miss strikes to where I have that crawl has teeth marks in it like a soft plastic swim bait, and it still looks perfect. So definitely worth it. So that'll be a really good show. Definitely check that out. And then we have a lot of good shows. I mean, just keep an eye out. We have some bigger names lined up, hopefully, over the next couple months. So it's going to be a good end of the year. And then next year, all the companies start dropping their final design boats. So we're going to have a lot of people back to talk about that stuff. So I'm pumped. It's going to be a good year.
Absolutely. And I want to give you an open floor to shout out sponsors and supporters and anybody you want to say thank you to, give shout outs to, all that good stuff.
So first person I want to say thank you to is my wife. She allows me to spend obscene amounts of money on eBay for JDM stuff. And then the hookup tackle, the guys who run that place know me by name. I message them on Instagram personally and they hook me up. So she allows me to spend that money. And then she just allows me to really enjoy my hobbies, which is, it's something that goes sight unseen a lot of times in relationships. She lets me go hunt. She lets me fish. So yeah, first off, my wife, and then I just want to thank the Paddle and Fin crew for allowing me to join the group. It's been awesome. I was kind of really missing that camaraderie coming out of the Marine Corps, and I got it back. So that's it's done a lot for my mental health. So that's great. And sponsor wise, for everybody who continues to sponsor me, Douglas Fishing Rods, best fishing rods on earth, in my opinion. Bio-Inno lithium-ion batteries. I've had 3 batteries going pretty much nonstop for 2.5 years, and I've had 0 issues with any of them. They all still have full charges. And then Dark Horse Tackle, new sponsor to the final cast. Been a long time subscriber, and if you go with it, I promise, no matter what tier subscription box you get, especially if you get the Champ box, you'll see a ton of hand-painted balsa crankbaits that go for $25, and you're getting 4 or 5 baits of that same quality every month. So definitely Dark Horse Tackle. And if you use Paddle 20, shameless plug here, if your viewers use Paddle 20 on Dark Horse Tackle, you get 20% off your first subscription box, no matter which one you get. So check it out.
Awesome.
Yeah, man.
And then I'll also
the,
say thank you for you guys for having me on. This is awesome. I love branching out and doing shows that aren't mine, because I don't feel as pressured to like make it a really good show. I just get to be myself, which everyone tells me always ends up being a good show, and I just need to do it more. I just can't. So thanks for you guys for having me on. This has been a blast. So thank you.
Absolutely. I love going on other shows too. Gives me, I don't have to steer the ship. I can just sit back and answer questions and all that.
I love it. Love it.
Yeah, man. I know you plugged it at the beginning of the podcast, but in case people have forgotten, go ahead and let us know where we can find you and follow you and all that good stuff.
Yeah, so I primarily post on Instagram. That's pretty much the only place I do post. Matt Sowders Fishing, super easy, straightforward. I'm laxing on it right now. I was posting every day for like a solid 6 months, and then now I'm posting like every 2 or 3 days, mostly because I'm getting burnt out from social media. But it'll start picking back up once hunting season, once I really dive into it. And then fishing throughout the fall and winter, you'll start seeing a lot more posts. So keep up with that, and then I'll put posts for Paddle and Fin and stuff for awesome shows that aren't my own, so you can check out, either if you're a big hunting guy, you can go check out Brad Hurlballs' show or the OG show. They always have dope guests on. So, yeah, Matt Sowders Fishing right on there.
Awesome. Well, Matt, man, thank you so much for coming on the show. I too have had a blast for the part that I got to enjoy, and this is going to be the first time that I get to go back and listen to my podcast and not know what I'm getting ready to hear. So I look forward to editing this one for that reason.
Oh, you missed some good stuff. Just make sure you leave the part in when me and Robert were making fun of you. Okay.
All right.
It was a good one.
Yeah. So, Robert, I don't know if or what ad you played going into what's your favorite. So,
Dude, I didn't play any. We just rolled right into it. So if you want to play that now, you can play that now.
all right, sure. We'll do 3 this time. With 30 years of experience of handcrafting lures under his belt, Mr. B of Mr. B Lure Company is making high-quality spinnerbaits, buzzbaits, jigs, underspins, swim blades, and more right here in the U.S. All of his skirts are hand-tied, and all of his baits feature a baked-on powder paint, all metal components, and only Owner and Gamakatsu hooks. All of his baits come in a variety of colors, and if you purchase a bait in the Battle Shad color, 30% of the proceeds go to the Wounded Warrior Project. To see the quality for yourself, go to MrBLureCompany.com, that's MRBLureCompany.com, to place your order and use promo code FAITH, fish, POD 1X10 at checkout to save 10% on your first order. Whether you're a Ned Rig vet or a finesse fishing noob like me, Jade's Jigs is your source for high-quality finesse jigs that raise the bar by being lead-free. Using a tin bismuth alloy not only makes Jade's Jigs eco-friendly, it also makes the jig lighter so you get the same profile with less weight for the fish to feel. Check out jadesjigs.com, that's JADESJIGS.com, to see their full lineup of jigs, styles, and colors. And since you're a Faith and Fishing listener, you can save 10% on your order by using promo code FNF10 at checkout. Savior Outdoors gives me confidence that no matter what happens, what I take on the water is coming back home with me. With retrieval devices for fishing rods, bow fishing bows, action cams, and even one that can be attached to your other gear, they've got your whole arsenal covered. When one of these devices goes in a drink, it releases a float attached to your gear by 60 feet of line so you can get it back, and the pressure-sensitive filter means that you don't have to worry about rain or dips in the water while landing a fish. At SaviorOutdoors.com, that's SAVUR Outdoors.com, you can use promo code FNFP15 to save 15% and try them for yourself. All right, man. Another huge thank you to Matt for coming on the show and sharing his story with us and having fun with us. I'll leave all of his links in the show notes so that you can follow his adventures. And the All Things Faith and Fishing link will have all of my links and Robert's links and sponsor links and all of that good stuff, where to listen to the show, all of that good stuff. So be sure to check it out. And I will also leave a link in the top of that one. Robert, the episode that we did with Mike from Project Mindfully Outdoors, my episode on his show aired this week. So that was pretty awesome. We're talking about fishing for a purpose and mindfulness in the outdoors and healing from the outdoors and all that good stuff. So that's a pretty awesome show. I'll leave a link to that one in there as well, because it is a fantastic conversation that we got to have. So yeah, man, you've been killing it lately with these thoughts at the end of the episode. So what are you leaving us with this time, man?
Really, I'll just touch on paddle and fin some, because it's one of those. I don't know. There's really not another podcast like that, because they have the one. It's a network, and I'm not even sure how many shows are on there, but they have several shows. I want to say it's maybe around 6 or 7. There's almost one for each day of the week, I believe. So
I want to say it's more like 12 or 14 or something like
maybe.
that.
There's some
10,
that 10. So 10 of them. I mean, I just, once you subscribe to the channel on Spotify, I just go to the new episodes and it just throws them up there. But I will say it's one of those podcasts that, there's all 10 shows are different, but they're all well done. The hosts do a good job. They're all entertaining, and it's not one of those where you're going to start listening and be like, nah, I got to go find something else. Because there are those podcasts that I do that to sometimes as well. You start listening to something different, I'm like, nah, I don't like that guy, and I'll go to the next one. But I really enjoy those podcasts, and it's a great platform, and they talk about a lot of pertinent information, and so I'll just leave it with that, man. I mean, it's one of those things where I feel like on that network there's a lot of positivity, and not that they don't say things like it is, but there's a way to say, hey, I don't like this, or I do like that, and do it the right way. And
Absolutely.
That's kind of what we strive for, and I think they do as well. So man, that's it, dude.
Yeah.
Hope everybody has a great week.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for this episode, y'all. Y'all take care, and God bless. Thank you for listening to the Faith and Fishing podcast. Faith and Fishing is produced and hosted by me, Cam Steele, and is sponsored by Jade's Jigs, Get Outdoors Pedal and Paddle, Savior Outdoors, Atollas, and Mr. B Lure Company. Be sure to give us a rating and a review, and to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. That's going to do it for this episode. Y'all take care, and God bless.